Something big is going on in the markets. We need to make sure that we're keeping track of it. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education, and pirates, when they try to learn the alphabet, they don't do so well with it because they always end up getting lost at sea. We're going to go through SPY, QQQ. We also have Google updates, Apple, NVIDIA. I'm going to throw ARM, ARM in there as well. And then finally, we'll finish up with Tesla. I think we have something massive going on with Tesla. We got to be watching for it. So look at SPY's chart with the rising wedge that we've been tracking for weeks, if not months now, watching this thing, seeing what exactly is going to take place. I said yesterday in my video about riding along this line that's kind of snaking down through here below the yellow and green. It's the 20-day simple moving average that we have with the Bollinger Bands, which you can see in blue on this chart right now. And what we're watching for is as we continue to rise up through that, we're watching this bottom trend line here to see when we could possibly have that correction come into SPY. I remain cautiously bullish on the markets, and as long as we're getting that signal going on right now that we're still moving upward, we're good, but there is reason to be watchful for this. We're above the 50 and the 200 day. That is a bullish thing. I don't think that we drop below the 50 or the 200 anytime soon. I do think that a 5 to 10% correction could leave us with an incredible bounce opportunity from where we're at right now. But in the meantime, like watching these markets rise up, I am a little bit cautious with the options that I play, that I tend to kind of take the profits as they come along and then just be very careful with those losses that come in as well. Moving on to QQQ, still the rising wedge pattern that we have with SPY as well, although with a little bit of a difference being with the tech heavy weighting that we have in this one. Let's drop down to the hourly chart and we can see a little bit more what's going on. Let me stretch it out for you there. So these top trend lines that we have here, that's the rising wedge. Now what you saw in the secondary one was this more recent action that we have where you can see that we fell down through the bottom of the rising wedge and we ended up retesting it and actually breaking through that resistance and then broken down through support. And we've ended up finding this minor trend line that's going on right now that we sort of have a little bit of, looks more like a bullish channel for what we have right here, but just a little bit sideways, a little bit up. This rejection right here, if we don't break back up into that, that could be something that could be troublesome for us. We would probably return back down to this trend line. We got to watch for it. Things are looking like they're shaping up like we could possibly break that resistance again, especially if this acts as a bit like a double bottom. And we want to watch for where that top would happen to come in. Is it going to be higher than the previous tops, which it seems like we get rejected right around that 447 level. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put a trend line in there for you. There we go, that we seem to hit resistance right about here where we had a little bit of a peekaboo above it and then a rapid sell-off that happened to follow. That's going to be a critical level for us. If we break through resistance, we got to watch around 446.50 to 447, that target area that we have in there. I'll open it up to 446 to 447. That breaking cleanly through that could keep us bullish for a little while longer in the markets in the QQQ as we look at it. Failing to break above that could send us back down for a while, and then we're looking for where we find support. Do we keep on getting the higher lows that we have here and we squeeze up on the top of this and really push forward? That'd be a very bullish thing. Or do we put in a lower high and a lower low, in which case that could confirm that we could have a little bit of a correction coming our way. Like I said, cautiously bullish. Got to keep on watching the signals every day as they come out. Moving over to Google. Google today, highly critical because yesterday we were able to come up to this trend line resistance that we have here, and that's in confluence with the resistance that we have right at 140. And then also if we went out to the daily chart for Google, we actually have creeping down on us, the 50 EMA is right here coming in at about 141. So even breaking up above these, which you have that confluence there yesterday, which you can see the rejection. Today, we're going to have to watch where that comes out for us. But 141-ish is about where we have that 50 EMA coming down for us. And above that is 143 is the 50 SMA. And they are sort of flattening out, moving away from their downward slope that we have. So it is possible we see some strength return to Google. We'll see if we continue correcting or if we can continue finding when I say correcting, I mean correcting to the upside because we already came down, tested the 200-day and bounced, which can be a very bullish thing. We're seeing that right now. That 50 is that next test that we have. We could get rejected there. If we come back and retest it, and then what we're looking for is that break. Breaking the resistance on the retest could be bullish for Google. Getting rejected on the retest could be something that starts to send us back down. So we're going to have to be watching for that one. Moving over to Apple. We're looking at the 4-hour chart here for Apple. We have not made it back up to about 175, 176. where we have this trend line resistance right here as well. And then horizontally, right at about 180 is also what we're looking for. So for Apple, will we continue to keep rising upward? The chart is looking like right now, possibly that we will, as we keep on getting the bears stopping us right around 174, 173 to 174. And you can see that the bulls are pushing up the bottom of that, adding pressure to the bears to give way, sending us back up to this trend line resistance that we have for Apple. Moving over to NVIDIA. For NVIDIA had its own rising wedge pattern. It actually went up above it for a little bit, sold off considerably down below it, found support right at about 850, and then from there, we've actually hit this point of confluence in the pre-market hours that we're looking here between the top trend line and bottom trend line. And I do think that for NVIDIA that we could still see a little bit more bullishness coming out of it, possibly even testing out this previous top that we have. Will it form a double top around 960 to 965, or is it one that's going to put in a new all-time high for NVIDIA stock leading up to their GTC conference? Remember, Monday, March 18th at 4 p.m. Eastern time, so market time is what we want to look for that keynote. It's possible that Friday could be, being the options day that it is, that we see a sell happen there or a sell happen on Monday leading up to that keynote, and then possibly the keynote reveals things that allows a further upside catalyst, or it could be a continued selling of the news. We're going to have to watch. Tuesday, the 19th, is going to be a super interesting day in the markets for NVIDIA, and that could also mean for things like the NASDAQ 100 tracked through QQQ and the other tech stocks as well, especially where AI is concerned. Moving over to ARM, speaking of such things, SoftBank, which owns 90% of the shares of ARM. This is one where, will they hold on to their shares? Will they start dumping their shares over time? We're going to have to watch and see. It looks like the midline right around through here is right at about 132 is what we're looking for. Breaking up above that is good for bullishness, but mind you, we have the symmetric triangle pattern coming out here. We have to watch the trend lines to see which way we're going to break on this thing. That lockout period expiring, that means that SoftBank had a lot of shares for probably a lot less than what you see here, which means they're well into profit territory right now. So if they sniff out signs of selling, they could possibly dump those shares prior to their shares being devalued further from where they're at. Or if it breaks to the upside, they could even possibly hold on to those shares a little while longer, watching for where that top could possibly come in. But I do believe that it's a time for caution for ARM. And then next up, we have Tesla, and Tesla right now is moving back down to critical support. We need to see the 172 to 175 area anywhere in there for support. Breaking down through that 172 could send us a lot lower. So let me put up the chart for Tesla that we have here. Been tracking this for quite a while. For this fall, we have a bearish flag pattern, a really big one. Then we have a smaller one happening here. And once again, we are testing to see. As a matter of fact, I like this trend line down here a little bit more. Even though we had some peekaboos up above it, I think that looks a lot better. So we have to see this support right here. If it does get broken, we could possibly fall quite a bit further from where we're at. We have 167, 165, 160, 153 for supports on the way down through this. 153 is where we bottomed out back in early 2023. So we want to find out if we're going to achieve that low again, and it is possible from this technical that we have right here. If we measure out that flagpole, I'll just draw one on quickly. It is really highly likely that we end up retesting that low, and I think that we would actually have a very significant bounce coming off of that. I am a long-term investor in Tesla, and long-term, I am a bull on Tesla. Short-term, we're getting some pretty bearish signs from here. Now, mind you, we've sold off considerably already from the peak, so it's possible that the bottom is already in for right now, and we do bounce. Right now, the technicals are suggesting that there could be a little bit further of a fall. Now, mind you, from that larger pattern that I saw for the bear flag pattern, let me put that back up there one more time for you. I do have a video out where I said Tesla could possibly come back down and test this low that we have over here, and that puts us at about $100 per share. So $100 Tesla stock, last time that we saw that, we had incredible upside that we almost 3x'd from that price up to the peak of it. Now, I will say that outlook has changed significantly for Tesla, but I still think that should we come down to a level that would be that substantially low, I think that that would be the ultimate buying signal for a really incredible bounce off that number, that we could actually see a 50% upside going back up and testing that 150. So playing this market on the way down, continuing to dollar cost average, and then looking for those options opportunities to come in, especially in the bullish direction as we start to see signals of a bounce. I think that $100, and I don't know that we ever get there. And I don't mean to sound bearish on it. I'm just saying that if that eventuality would occur, and maybe you think it's ludicrous and it's out of the question, it's not even worth talking about, it is something that we want to be watching for those opportunities to come out, as we know that Tesla is just a massive company that's going through a bit of fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the moments for it, especially with what we have macroeconomically speaking, what's happening in China right now. It's just going to be some dark days that we're going to go through, and that's what makes me think short term, that bearishness, that sentiment that we're getting is going to lead to further drops for Tesla. But I think overall, for Tesla, as they continue to build out through those dark times, remember that the stock is not the company. This is one of those things that I think the company itself is going to win out over time and fill out their margins again over time and return to being a higher margin business, or they're going to continue to scale, and then that's going to compensate for some of those margins that we have. So let me just summarize this thing. I stay cautiously bullish on the markets. Google could possibly break its resistance right now and head further up, or we get rejected at resistance and we head back down to the 200-day, which could lead to a further fall. Apple, we need to see if it also continues to rise to resistance, and I believe that it could. We'll see what happens around 175. That gets interesting, up to 180 before I think that we get a significant rejection for Apple, if it does continue to climb upward from where it's at right now. If not, we could return back down to about 167. And then NVIDIA, I think that we have a further rise to go leading up to GTC. I think that there's going to be a moment where the stock dumps prior to the keynote. So whether that's Friday or Monday, I don't know. And then from that keynote, we might see things in the after hours that really amplify what we see coming through NVIDIA's stock. So that's just a guess on what's coming up based on what we've seen before with Sell the News, but also for NVIDIA with the potential for massive announcements coming out of that GTC conference. That's something that I'm definitely watching for further bullishness. I still think there's a point in time, possibly in the near future, where we see NVIDIA hit that 4-digit stock price, where we start to go back to that $1,000 mark. So we're going to have to be watchful for that, for NVIDIA. Long-term bull on NVIDIA right now. I think that the price probably running a little bit high in a way that not necessarily that they won't fill that out over time, but it's one that I think we will pull back considerably from where it's at some point in time before we get another massive rise up again. And then ARM, watch out for those shares to dump. Watch what the symmetric triangle pattern, watch to see if we break through the bottom or the top of that, because that could signal bearishness or bullishness for where we're at right now. 132 is about that midline. And then for Tesla, short term, bearish on it, long term, bullish on it. I'll continue to dollar cost average over time. And should options opportunities arise, I will be most definitely using those. And there could be some put options in the near future for Tesla. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you want to see my buys and sells, check out the link down in the description for the Patreon. And come on over and join me and my community members over there. And then also get access to my Tesla stock price prediction, NVIDIA stock price prediction. And then if you want to learn to do technical analysis like I do and really up your trading game, you can find a link for that in the description as well. Go ahead and click that and sign up. And there's just dozens of hours of videos that are over there. Very clean, concise, easy, brought to you by Stockmo Academy. I even have a chapter in there on options as well. And there's even a Discord that goes along with it. All right, guys, as always, thank you very much for watching. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning, and we'll see you in the next video.